Hello lovely people, welcome to my autumn favourites. This is a little bit delayed. I'm aware that it's probably technically winter by now, but I thought better late than never.
Sophie Vlogs.
I have been doing this seasonally this year. I've really enjoyed, as the season goes on, sort of keeping an eye on what is bringing me joy, and wrapping it up. So, I have a bunch of stuff to talk about this week. I'm going to start off with film and television, by which I mainly mean television. I just feel like one thing I've slightly struggled with this year is really getting into, TV shows and stuff. So, as you will know, if you've watched previous installments of this, have been loving documentaries. So, I've been watching a lot of Michael Palin documentaries, who I think is probably my favourite member of Monty Python, given how many of them keep coming out and saying stupid things. Um, there's something about, travel documentaries that are just person bumbling around place that really works for me. So I've watched a number of Michael Palin's by now. I've watched his one going through the Sahara Desert. I've watched his one where he tried to travel the world in 80 days. I've watched his one where he was starting at the South Pole and stuff like this. And they're all quite old by now. I think they were filmed in the 80s. But there's just something about Michael Palin bumbling around, sort of just interacting with people. I just quite like the way he does a travel documentary. I feel like I get glimpses into the places that he's at, but not in a high action kind of way, you know? It's something that's just quite nice to have on in the background while you're doing things, which I like. I've also been watching a lot of Francesco da Mostra documentaries, which Francesco da Mostra is an Italian architect. The BBC commissioned him again, 10 or 20 years ago now. They commissioned him to do some documentaries. He's done one on Shakespeare. He's done one on Venice because his family are essentially hugely rich and influential in Venice and have been for centuries. He also did one where he just drove around Italy in his fancy little car and just went all over the place and told you about things. Again, I like documentaries that are both travel, fairly chill, but also Francesco looks at art and architecture and stuff like this because those are areas that he specializes in, and just that particular style of travel documentary just really works for me. So if you have any recommendations on travel documentaries like that, I would really love to hear them. Onto a more TV show side of things, I recently watched Hollywood, which is on Netflix, and it was kind of everything I needed it to be. So it's sort of like an alternate history set in the 50s in Hollywood. And by alternate history, I mean that it's really shining a lens on people who were sort of excluded from Hollywood at that time. So of our main characters, we have gay men, we have people of colour, and we're sort of rewriting history a bit. And it's sort of following these people trying to make it in the business, trying to make this film, and that sort of thing. And what really worked for me with this was just the escapism aspect of it. I thought the costumes were beautiful. I thought the sets were really great. And it was just really lovely to be able to watch something set in this particular time with people that you're not often given their perspective of. So I know that this got a bit of flack for being wish fulfillment, but to be quite honest with you, I needed wish fulfillment. So I didn't go into this expecting it to be a completely accurate portrayal of a time. I went into it wanting to see the stories of these people being given time and being given in-world acknowledgement that they didn't really get in real life. So that just kind of really worked for me, and I kind of just cried through the last episode. It was just having a bit of a stressful time, and then the catharsis of the finale was kind of everything for me. So go into it expecting it to be an alternate history thing, but I had a really fun time. It was what I needed. I also wanted to talk about a film, but kind of as a segue into my next topic. So I watched the film Ophelia that has Daisy Ridley in it. And I had some mixed feelings initially. So initially, I feel like the cinematography of this film is absolutely gorgeous. They're very much inspired by a lot of artworks of Ophelia. They recreate the, oh god, what's your name? Pre-Raphaelite. I love the Pre-Raphaelites, why can't I remember his name? The picture of Ophelia in the river when she's floating down the river with flowers around her. Who's that by? John Millay. But also I feel like they also recreated the John William Waterhouse portrait of Ophelia as well. So the actual cinematography, gorgeous, stunning. Story-wise, initially, I didn't love the story because I felt like Ophelia was not necessarily the most dynamic of people, insofar as I felt like I was still experiencing Hamlet. I wanted to experience it through Ophelia's eyes, but I felt like I was still getting a lot of Hamlet. I don't know if that makes sense. But then, as it went on, I got a lot more into it, and specifically, the last 20 minutes of it really worked for me. Like, it really kicked into gear, and that finale I thought was done really, really well. But specifically, I really loved the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was excellent. I wrote down the name of the song. Oh, To Lose Himself in Vengeance, which plays during that finale moment, was so good. I keep listening to it when I'm working just to get me in the zone, because all throughout, some of the soliloquies from Hamlet are sort of put to music. The singing aspect of them is this woman who's repeating some of the refrains and stuff like that, and in a way that just works so well for me, but also really reminds me of Lorena McKenna is a musician that I really like. She's a Canadian musician. She plays the harp along with a bunch of other stuff, and she does a lot of these songs which are like The Lady of Shalott, put to music, The Highwayman, put to music, and she did this one lullaby which has this guy reading a William Blake soliloquy over the top, and it really reminded me of that, and so I have also been listening to a lot of Lorena McKenna as a result. It also kind of reminded me in some ways of Dead Can Dance, so I've also been listening to those two. It's been a very music-filled season, I will tell you that, but I just think that soundtrack was so good. I would really be interested to know what other films he scored, because I now just I really think he worked really well as a composer, and he made a good end of a film even better with his music. Loved it. I also got really back into Judas Priest. I read Halford's autobiography called Confess, which is wrapped up in my nonfiction November wrap-up. I don't know if that's live yet or not. Let me know. So it got me really back into listening to Judas Priest, who are a band that I grew up listening to that I really like, but also specifically, Halford talks a lot about how he really likes Lady Gaga, so I was like, have they ever collabed? They have not collabed, but there's this mashup, which is a mashup of Painkiller by Judas Priest with Judas by Lady Gaga, and it works so fucking well. I'm going to link it down below. It is a banger. So I've been really into that. Also, Catatonia, the band, have done a cover of Night Comes Down, which is a very different vibe to the Judas Priest one, but I actually think it works really well. Again, in this sort of slightly more understated way than Priest, but I think it works really great. So I will link all of these songs down below for you to listen to if you wish. Another musical moment I've been having is I've been very into Miley Cyrus's new album, which Miley Cyrus is not a musician who I have really explored a lot. I really like Slide Away, and I like some of the backyard sessions she did a few years ago, but I don't know her music super duper well. But her new album is so leaning on 80s rock pop, and boy does it work for me. Collaborations with Billy Idol, Joan Jett, the mashup with Stevie Nicks, it is working so well for me. I think she has a voice with a roughness to it that really works with a slightly rougher kind of music. So whatever this musical moment is that she's exploring, I am very much enjoying it. Marina, formerly of Marina and the Diamonds, also released a new single called Man's World, and I want you guys to watch it, if only just to see the video, which I think is glorious. I love all the outfits, I love the variety of people who are included in it. I just think it is chef kiss, and I'm excited to see what else she's going to be releasing that is presumably for this new album. I also listened to Rina Sawayama for the first time, and I know that a lot of people have been loving her for a while, and I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but very much jumped on. Really enjoyed Cherry. I listened to this and I was like, is she bisexual? And I googled, and I found out that she identifies both as bisexual and pansexual, and then I was like, I think I need to listen to everything else she's recorded, so very much enjoy. Being having this weird mix of pop and then also heavy rock. That's where I'm at with my life, I think, right now. And then the final song I want to mention is the collab between Bleachers and Bruce Springsteen, which again will be linked down below. Springsteen is a musician who I really love. I also really love his autobiography. I would highly recommend it. I I think it's a really excellent autobiography. And this collab just is everything I didn't know I needed. I think they both, in their own separate ways, have music that is really good for like road trips and driving and stuff. And so this collab, Springsteen's voice doesn't come in until about like 2.5 minutes in, but when it does, it is so satisfying. There's this real mood that has developed by that point, and then Springsteen coming in, so like it's very atypical for him, it's not his usual genre, and yet at the same time it feels so authentic to him, and it's made me want to go and get to know Bleachers better than I have, because I know some of their songs but I don't know them very well. So music is definitely the largest part of this favourites. I've been doing a lot of listening to things, and I've been having a really great time doing so. I've also been watching a lot of YouTube, as I am wont to do. 3 booktubers who I want to shout out are Marinez from My Name is Marinez. I just think that she is so well spoken. Every single discussion video she puts out, I'm always in awe of how well she is able to like succinctly like sum up things and like have all these really meaningful in-depth conversations in a way that is like so accessible. I just kind of love every single video that she puts out, and I've been so enjoying her channel this season particularly. I also have been really enjoying Bookish Realm. I love people who read a variety of genres because I do the same thing, so it's really fun for me to have like a really long wrap-up that you can just sit with while you're potentially doing other things, and then cover like so many different types of books. So I really love that about her channel, and I think she's so well spoken. I think she's so like able to concisely wrap things up, whereas I feel like I waffle to the heavens. And then finally, Olivia's Catastrophe, who I have been watching for much longer than this season. Same goes to all of these, but like just really particularly enjoying at the moment. Again, I feel like she reads such an interesting range of stuff. I've really been enjoying like her Shakespeare Sundays and stuff like that. And just like, once more, the precision in which she's able to just like give her thoughts across to you. I love it. I also particularly enjoyed stuff like she did a video with her sister where they talked about disability rep and stuff like that. I just think that she is creating some really excellent stuff, and those are 3 people who every time I see them in my sub box I'm like prioritizing watching their videos for sure. Going on to my assorted other category, there are 2 food items I would like to discuss. First of all is Tony's Chocolate Only. As you can tell, I have already opened this bar. I mentioned in my autumn reading wrap-up, I read Dictatorland, and it really opened my eyes to like the exploitation involved in like the chocolate industry, and Tony's are a very ethical chocolate company as far as I can tell, so I've just been enjoying. Their selling factor is that they're 100% slave-free chocolate, which should not be a USP, but apparently it is. But they're delicious, and I know it's a bit of a privilege to be able to like be fussy about your chocolate choices, and I see that and I recognise that, but just Tony's have made it a lot easier for me if I do want to eat chocolate. Also, Salt and Vinegar Chickpeas by Asda. Very yummy, very good. Final things, I can show you some physical things. First up, there's this artist who goes by Myths and Tits on Instagram. I bought this gorgeous weekly planner by her. It's in Welsh, in case you're confused about what these things mean. But this is a weekly planner. I also have, I will not show you the one with my actual to-do list on, a little to-do list. A lot of her stuff is inspired by Greek mythology. There's also some Welsh mythology in there and a bunch of other stuff. I just think her style is absolutely gorgeous, and also it's actually really hard for me to write on these things because they're so beautiful. I also got an early Secret Santa present, which was very kind of my friend, which is this DIY floral cat pillow kit by Miss Ella, who is an artist that I have loved for a very long time, and my friend knows this, and that's why she got this for me. But it's this pillow kit. You sew it up, you fill it with stuffing. I'm very excited. I've always wanted to have a pillow by her, and I've just never bought one, so that is like a future delight. I also bought myself this Eco Susie bag. I really love the style of this bag. It is like the perfect autumnal bag for me, because like the colour scheme, it goes with all my autumnal clothes. I love it. This is actually a vegan company. To be honest with you, their bags are quite expensive, and I got this secondhand for £3 on eBay. So I'm more sort of saying that if you like that style, but maybe you don't have like 50 quid to drop on a bag because this year has been not great financially, maybe look on eBay, and maybe you'll also be able to find one for 3 quid. It's a good deal. On a smelly front, Penhaligon's are a very expensive, I would like 50 quid for a bag. Penhaligon's are ungodly expensive perfume, But I bought my partner, for his birthday, I bought him a much cheaper little selection pack where it had 10 of their most popular scents. And to be honest with you, you don't need a lot. A little goes a long way. So I think that's going to last a long time. But you can also get like free samples. You can get 2 free samples with an order, or you can just order free samples. So I have been ordering some free samples. So like Vara, this is like a really like musky, like woody kind of rose scent. And I've also got Orange Blossom, which again is sort of like a spicy orange scent, and Elizabethan Rose, which is a much more like clearer sort of rose scent. So essentially, I bought him that as a gift, and then I got myself a bunch of free samples, and I've been having a really great time smelling nice. I'm not seeing anyone, but I know that I smell nice, and that brings me joy. And then finally is an Instagram account I'd like to shout out. It's also a Twitter account. It's called Embroidering the Medieval, and it is this fantastic woman who creates these hoop embroideries that are inspired by medieval art. So a lot of them are recreations of medieval sort of like marginalia or like interesting artworks and stuff like that done on an embroidery hoop. She's also done like one that she did recently, which I really loved, was sort of like an aerial view of this Neolithic site, which was really fabulous. She's also done like a Hobbit house one. I just think I really like embroidery. I wish I put more time into doing embroidery. It's something that I keep meaning to dedicate time to, but just her entire account is amazing and I love it extremely amount. Extremely amount? That didn't make any sense. Okay, this has gone on for a while, so I will wrap it up and call it a day. But these are all the things that I've been loving over this last season. I would love to know if you have been enjoying any of these things, if you've been enjoying other things. Let me know the things that make you smile, and then maybe they can make me smile over winter, which would be good, because winter is my least favourite season. Oh yeah. Otherwise, I hope you're having a really lovely day. I will see you next time for something different.